Larry Wheels is probably one of the strongest guys on YouTube. The man with the world's strongest laugh is of course very well known in the fitness and strength sport community, in particular for his incredible physique and his ability to hoist weight in many different ways. He's also started doing bodybuilding and recently turned professional in classic physique. He's competed in arm wrestling, strongman, brain rot, and pretty much anything you can think of. But as somebody who started watching Larry back in 2017 and 2018, I know him as a full-fledged powerlifter and meme lord. And I vividly remember that back in the day, before all of his injuries, Larry held multiple powerlifting world records across many different weight classes. And he was truly one of the strongest men on the planet. And with injuries and other career paths coming in the way, I don't think we'll ever see him get back to that level of strength. Which is why I wanted to break down how strong Larold Williams truly was in his powerlifting prime. Now, Larry comes from the Bronx in New York, and he grew up with a pretty hectic childhood with an absent dad and a mom who had a lot of abusive relationships according to himself, which meant Larry grew up living with his grandparents a lot. But he eventually moved to St. Martin with his mom, and when he started lifting weights at 14 years old, it was pretty clear that his genetics were borderline insane. At 14, while only working out at home, he looked better than most people at any commercial gym, and by 15 he had built a pretty solid natural physique, still only working out at home, claiming he was using the training to battle his own low self-esteem and bullying. While at 16, Larry joined his first ever gym, and you can tell the insane difference in his physique, which came as a result of his crazy genetic potential, and believe it or not, he was actually natural at this time. It was only as he got older and turned 17 that those gains came alongside a cup of two of illegal creatine. Now, while there isn't a lot of footage of Larry lifting at 17, there are tons of videos of him showing how strong he was at only 18. Mind you, in his third year of training at an actual gym, Larry was able to lift the following: 535 pounds on bench for 2 reps, which is the equivalent to peak Brian Shaw holding 2 45-pound plates, a 675-pound deadlift for touch and go reps, which is the same as 2045 cheeseburgers, and by the end of that same year, he was squatting that weight for 3 with knee reps. And these weren't just gym level impressive, because he actually competed at his first ever meet at 18, hitting very similar numbers under semi-strict competition rules. But because he was tired of being 18, Larry turned 19 and went to become even bigger. First, he went to compete at the Pennsylvania State Championships hosted by the RPS, a federation that probably has less members than Mike Israetel has hair follicles, but he managed to put up a tremendous total of 1,965 pounds with just knee sleeves, again at just 19 years old, while looking like this. Now, in powerlifting there are a ton of different smaller federations, especially in the untested category. While in tested powerlifting everyone competes in the IPF, in untested people just tend to compete in whichever federation fits their style better. Some like to have a different foot and head placement on bench, some like to use a monolift, which means you don't actually have to walk with the weight yourself, stuff like that. So Larry competed across 6 different federations after turning 19, and he competed across many different weight classes, so his strength also went up and down. Though one thing's for sure, he did put on a lot of muscle and got overall stronger every single year while training in New York alongside his friend Otis, who is often referred to as Black Tom Cruise, who unfortunately passed away in a car accident in 2021, may he rest in peace. Larry was actually starting to blow up on social media during 2017 and 2018, which was when he neared the peak of his powerlifting career. First, he went out to set a world record total at the Reebok Record Breakers meet, you can say that 5 times, in the 242 pound or 110 kilo weight class, where he squatted 771 pounds, benched 573 pounds, and deadlifted a whopping 827 pounds, which resulted in a crazy record which stood for about 3 years. And at age 22, he broke the total world record for the weight class above, being the 275 class, with a 2,275 pound total, hitting another line of personal records. And the year after that, at 23, he went to break the world record in the next weight class, and again in a different federation. That was before finishing off his powerlifting career at the 2020 Arnold Classic, where he squatted 870 pounds, benched 645 pounds, and deadlifted 855 pounds. And he could have gone even heavier on deadlifts if he didn't tear his hand open right before it. So at only 25, Larry retired from professional powerlifting, But that doesn't mean that he didn't get stronger afterwards, because in training, Larry has managed to hit a 900-pound squat, which he hit at Zoo Culture in 2019 while being spotted by Bradley Martin, a 675-pound touch and go bench press also in 2019, but he did also hit a 661-pound pause bench press around the same time. And finally, his deadlift, where his best ever completely raw lift was 900 pounds performed in training, though this was actually back in 2018, 2 full years before retiring. But his best ever is perhaps a strongman deadlift with a suit and straps, where he hit 930 pounds for 3 reps back in 2022. However, after this point, a series of injuries would unfortunately catch up to Larry faster than he gains weight after a bodybuilding show. Because despite being the world champion of injuring anyone lifting within a 3-kilometer radius, Larry first tore his own bicep after doing some Atlas stone work while preparing for a strongman competition. Then he injured his back while deadlifting too heavy after coming back from a vacation.
So first couple sets felt good, but after the second set, I started feeling a compression on my lower back.
And I believe he also tore his quad many years ago during training. And he even got rhabdomyolysis at one point, which is basically overtraining of a muscle which breaks it down into the bloodstream and can in worst cases actually be deadly. Also, for those who didn't know, despite his bicep tear, Larry also got incredibly strong in the strict curl, getting up to 105 kilos, which is around 231 pounds. So combined with all his power lifts, the fact that he managed to press 440 pounds overhead, incline press 600 pounds and perform hundreds of incredible AMRAPs across different lifts, Larry was a unit and a half in the strength world. And I think that if he solely focused on powerlifting and remained injury-free into his 30s, he could have set those numbers even higher. Because as we know, Larry was chasing a 700-pound bench and a 1,000-pound deadlift, which I believe would actually make him the only man in history to do both of those things. And he would probably do so at a much lighter bodyweight than any other giant in the strength sport world, considering his highest ever weight in competition was only 296 pounds, which for a guy standing at 6'1" isn't overly massive compared to guys like Dan Bell or Eddie Hall or many other great strength athletes.
I'm exercising!
Though I don't think we'll ever see Larry reach this level of strength ever again, considering he's getting older, he has all of these injuries, and he's focusing mostly on bodybuilding now, I think it's cool to look back and see what sort of unit he was in his physical prime. Throwing belts around the gym, bleeding out of any and every pimple on his forehead, competing at the top level for many years despite being so young, and now he's doing virtually every other strength sport aside from weightlifting, still lifting heavy and probably with a more longevity-focused vision of how he wants his career to be. Aside from being the secondary cause of some of the harshest injuries I've ever seen here on YouTube, Larry is growing into a very important piece in the fitness community, and not just that one strong guy who makes silly faces and can lift a lot. I think his content has matured, and so has he. But again, Larry Wheels in his strength prime was something special, and I think it'll take quite a while before we ever see somebody like that emerge again. Though there are some serious contenders acting on that as we speak. But what do you guys think? Was Larry Wheels one of the best powerlifters in the world as a youngster, and can he ever regain that strength, or do you think it's not within his realm of focus anymore? Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.